what are some stuff you do in like in the winter months? Not necessarily, springtime. We always preach about springtime scouting,
Mhm.
but is there anything you do different in the wintertime compared to you know
Well,
spring,
I
March,
really
April?
like to follow tracks around and see where they go. I like to follow big bucks around the woods, especially in fresh snows, because they teach you a lot. You wouldn't think so. You'd think you're just following tracks, but if you're really observant, and I'm kind of the type of person who always thinks about why, and if you think like that, when you follow those tracks, you really see some interesting things. Like I followed bucks around in a marsh near my house that
Hmm.
are very large, mature bucks, and you notice how they walk around for a mile and never go past a tree you could shoot them out of. That's an eye opener because you almost have to try not to walk past a tree that you could shoot out of. You know,
Yeah.
you see all kinds of things. You learn little hiding spots that you didn't know about. Even me looking for like the overlooked spots, you find spots that catch you off guard. You're like, well, I never thought of this. I didn't think they were here. And you learn little hideouts and spots that they bed. And even if they just bed during winter, it teaches you a little, you know. Um, some spots that you find, some bedding areas that you find, will only be bedded in winter that you find now. They won't be bedded there in the fall. But that'll help you next year, late season for one. And number two, some spots are used year round.
Yep.
So it does help to look, and it certainly doesn't hurt. And the sooner you look at where bucks were bedding, the sooner you look at them from the season, the more the sign's still fresh. Like right now, you can still see rut sign real easy. You can
Hmm.
still see the scrapes real easy. You can still see the trails real easy. And those trails you're seeing now are not made now, unless they're in snow. If they're in mud, they're made, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, into now maybe. So those were being used during the rut. They were being used during the season, right?
Yep.
So when you get into like March or April, things are shifting, and some of those trails and stuff might be a little different from then. Even when we're looking in like February, April, March, all that area, we're still looking at the sign from back in season. You know what I mean? We're not really looking for fresh beds. We're kind of looking for where they bed during the season when we're hunting them. So the sooner you look to when they were bedding there, the more the sign is there to see. Matter of fact, I would say the best time to scout, if you for intel, is during season.
Hmm.
Except you usually have a tag, number one, and number two, if you don't have a tag, usually somebody's hunting in the area and you're
Yep.
screwing things up. So I tend to try and wait till afterwards. I do some scouting during season, if I'm filled up, and look at some areas where I don't think people are going and stuff, or they're not in there. But it's a great time to scout. Every time's a great time to scout.
Yeah, for sure. Something else you can kind of judge this time of year is like get a feel for how much pressure properties are getting. Like that's something that you can't really tell as easily in the springtime or summertime because there's not as many people out and about. But right now you'll be able to at least get an idea of tracks in the parking lot and
Well,
footprints and all that stuff.
yeah,
Um,
anytime you're scouting, you see sign though. I mean, I remember that
sure.
fall scout that I did on video. That video I did with Eric, where we
Hmm.
scouted that property. We found those gutting gloves, a couple
Hmm.
places. We found a knife. We found some beer cans, some soda cans, food wrappers. Remember that?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. That's the spot that the DNR sold because nobody uses it.
yeah. Right.
Thank you, DNR.
Other than like, yeah, a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
Sounds like. Something else that I do this time of year, and you were mentioning about hunting stuff, and I won't start scouting again until after this weekend. This weekend's our muzzleloader season, and then it goes into late bow hunting, which there's hardly anybody that bow hunts late in the year around here. I mean, there are people, but it's pretty much a ghost town for the most part, like it is in a lot of states. Um, but I'll start running trail cameras again this time of year to get like a idea of what's left over after the guns seasons are all over here in Indiana.
Mhm.
And I mean one of my most exciting like times during the year is like picking up those trail cameras when I'm shed hunting or something and checking out what made it through um, the
Sure, you're
season.
already getting a head start because anything you
Yep.
see now is probably going to make it. You
Yeah.
hit on something too there. I don't want to distract you too far from what you're saying, but when you're talking about it still being muzzleloader season, I'm sure a lot of people watching this still have some sort of muzzleloader or gun season in.
Yep.
And to me, one of my best times for scouting for bow season is while I got a gun in my hand. I love sneaking into bedding areas or what I think is a bedding area with a gun, jumping deer. But at the same time, I'm learning that bedding area for next year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
No,
I
you're
don't think I was
exactly.
gonna elaborate any more on that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I got a lot of trail cameras out right now. It's just been soaking all year, and I'll probably next weekend or something go and uh, you know, put fresh batteries in some of those, maybe move them to certain areas that I think maybe get better pictures, or just kind of be a judge when I'm out there and get a good inventory for next year. Now, I would tell you like, if I get a picture of a deer in, January, February, before it drops its antlers, and like probably 90% of the time that deer's back alive the next year.
Yeah.
Sometimes they die, but most of the time they make it. If they got through those December and through muzzleloader season, they're pretty well good as gold from there.
Well,
But
if you look at the majority of my biggest bucks, I hunted them more than one season. So I'm
yep,
going off intel from previous seasons.
yep, yep. You ever go into like new spots this time of year?
Oh yeah, for sure. This time of the year, I do a lot of new spot. You mean hunting wise?
Well,
Yeah. Or you mean
scouting,
scouting?
hunting,
Oh,
whatever.
yeah, well, both.
Yeah,
Scouting, I'm always looking for new areas. I mean, I learn an area pretty well. You kind of know where the deer are going to be. I mean, once I know a property, if I know it inside out, I know where the deer are going to be. I know where they bed. I know how they move. Then it's just a matter of something big shows up. So I'm always wanting to expand my range and find new properties that might be better, learn new areas. And anytime I'm scouting fresh stuff, I'm learning. Even if I don't end up hunting there or anything, I'm learning about the animals. You're looking at what they're doing on that property and why they're doing it, and you're just going through following them and figuring out where they're going, why they're going, when they're going, what they're doing. Every time you do that, you systematically make yourself a better hunter or a better, more knowledgeable about deer.
yeah,
Next
for
time you
sure.
see a scenario that's similar when you're hunting, it just clicks inside it. Sometimes you don't even know why, but you're just like, well, the deer are going to be right there. A lot of times I can look at a property and I know where the big buck's going to come out of, and I have a hell of a time explaining it, but I just know it from looking at all the bedding I've looked at over the years. And I'm sure you're
Mm-hmm.
there too. I mean, I remember when we saw that buck this year on that hunt, that 8-pointer you got.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you pretty much right off the bat knew where you were going, and you went in there and you killed that deer. It was a pretty
Yeah,
much done deal. I don't think your average person could do that. You did that because you've looked at stuff like that over and over and over again, and hunted that type of terrain and scouted that type of terrain, so you knew what to look for, and you just put yourself right in the right funnel, and you made it happen.
yeah. It is something hard. Like, it's something you can't hardly teach people. Is just like that experience that is probably like, if we're being honest, like 70% of the battle is just like you just got to
Well,
put
yeah,
a bunch of time
you
in.
can you can teach everybody everything we know,
Yeah.
but they still got to put in the time. They still got to
Mm-hmm.
pay their dues, as old Stan used to say, right? You got to pay your dues.
Yep.
You got to burn that boot leather, because there's something that's got to click inside you to recognize. You can learn it book wise, but you have to live the life in order to execute. That
Yeah,
takes
that's
time.
right. Yep. And that's why it's so hard. Like, me and you both get a bunch of like very intricate, detailed questions about like certain properties or certain situations people have, and it's hard to answer those thoroughly for people. Or I always feel like I disappoint people with answers whenever it's something like that,
Right.
because um, it's
If
just something
somebody,
like
if you ask somebody who's supposed to be a deer expert, about a spot on a map, and he gives you a matter of fact answer that they're going to be right here, and this is what they're going to do. Like, I don't know shit.
Yeah.
So, because
That's all right.
really, if you know what you're doing, you can't answer in absolutes. You can't.
Yeah.
You don't know if there's a tree stand up there. You don't know if this is going on. You don't know what's going on. You can say, from what I've seen, this is what I think a deer is going to do in this situation. But they might not. They might, But I get a kick out of people that use always or never when talking about deer. The one thing they never do is fly. I've never seen one fly away.
Yeah, right.
I still might not say never with that,
Right, you never know.
Hey everybody, if you like the channel, make sure you subscribe right here. And if you like the clips, I got 2 more options for you. 2 options right here. Subscribe right here. See you guys.